Hello everyone, it's Lauren Etheridge again. Today I'm going to be talking with you about OER and open pedagogy. We'll discuss what OERs are and some features and benefits, define open pedagogy as best we can, talk about the current status at the state level of the use of OERs, and the necessity of OERs. I'm going to share a quick personal experience with you and talk about some resources. So OERs are open educational resources. They're essentially educational content that is open to the public for anyone to use. They can be paid or free, digital or print materials. The purpose of OERs is to create equity in education, providing learning materials that are free or very affordable to everyone. Some examples of OER platforms for resources are OER Commons, OpenStax, LibreText. The way to determine if a material is an open educational resource is to look at the 5 R's. Can you retain what you are using, revise it, remix it, add to it, reuse it, and redistribute it? This comes down to how is the material licensed and what are your access abilities. Those are the key elements of OER. To explain this, I have included this diagram that shows the relationship of OER materials to licensing and pricing. Resources can be digital or print, paid or free. But what makes a resource an OER is the license that allows you complete access. This diagram itself is an example of an OER. It was created by Dr. Wiley for his introduction to OER presentation back in 2014. Since he placed a Creative Commons license on that presentation, I'm free to share this diagram with you, expand upon it, rearrange it, or use it as needed. During my research, I also discovered another type of license similar to Creative Commons. LibreText that I mentioned earlier does use a license created by CK12 Foundation called the Curriculum Materials License. This essentially gives you the same access as a Creative Commons license. However, it does require you to share your modifications with, in this case, LibreText. And in doing so, you are agreeing to allow others to use and access your materials as well. So it creates this perpetual loop of sharing knowledge and resources, which is really the goal of open pedagogy. Now, open pedagogy is surprisingly hard to define as it's had several names throughout the past few years. But in 2020, Dr. Alan Witt and his team analyzed 98 peer-reviewed articles and book chapters to come up with this definition. Open pedagogy is any pedagogy informed by the practitioner's conscious identifications with the open movement, open access, and OER. Essentially, that means that open pedagogy is a teaching method founded on the use of open educational resources and practices. These are the tools of open pedagogy. The reason for this teaching method is the belief that education is about sharing expertise, building on the discoveries of those before you, and creating and collaborating to build a better society. Teachers are using open pedagogy to provide cost-effective, high-quality materials to students. They're using open educational resources to draw on the work and expertise of other educators in order to curate learning experiences that allow for meaningful, creative, collaborative learning in our students. So what does this, or what can this look like in real life? In South Carolina, where I am, colleges and universities are leading the way in OER adoptions. Many of the public and private libraries have Many of the public and private universities have OER libraries available for their students to access. In OER Commons, the South Carolina technical colleges have a hub that encourages collaboration and sharing across the campuses to benefit the students at our technical colleges. At grade school level, the power to adopt curriculums rests with individual districts. And our state education department is careful not to endorse one specific curriculum or publisher over another, but they do have an active role in vetting curriculums or possible curriculums for alignment with our state standards. And the State Department also curates an instructional hub that every teacher in every school district has access to. These are materials that are either free or have been purchased by this department at the state level for teachers to use. However, most of these do not have open licenses, and so these are not true open education resources. They're just a collection of resources that our state provides to teachers. While educational institutions may be slow to adopt the open movement, many teachers and schools and districts have discovered the use of OER out of necessity. So several years ago, when I was still teaching fourth grade English language arts and social studies, our ELA curriculum resources were badly out of date, and teachers were pulling from anywhere and everywhere that we could find affordable or free materials and kind of just piecemealing everything together. And our school literacy coach was introduced to the Engage New York curriculum created by the Columbia Teachers College. If you've heard of it, then you know that it's an open license, Common Core aligned curriculum. And at that time, our state standards were heavily inquiry based, and the Engage New York curriculum gave us a framework that we could follow. It had multiple cross curriculum units correlated with science and social study that we could easily align with our standards. We were able to instantly have access to all of the lesson plans and worksheets, assignments and teachers' guides. The only thing that we had to purchase was any supporting materials that we wanted that they had collected to go with the curriculum. So those were like novels and extra resources that we could purchase. We were able to take, it was completely editable. We were able to take the worksheets and assignments and assessments that were originally designed to be printed and convert them to digital versions that were easier and cheaper to distribute and faster to grade. We were able to customize the units by adding things like word study. We found that the curriculum was a little lacking in this area, so we were able to supplement with that. We were able to customize examples that make them more relevant to our students in South Carolina when it was based out of New York. We were even able to alter writing assignments to make them fit a little bit more closely to our state's criteria. So while this was several years ago and our state standards have since changed and moved away from inquiry-based ELA instruction, and most of the nation has kind of started moving away from balanced literacy and to the science of reading. So our standards have changed here in South Carolina. But at that time, this open education resource served our school very well for several years. It provided resources when funding was not available. It gave teachers a starting point and students access to learning, which is exactly what an OER is meant to do. Like I said, our standards have since changed, and our district has adopted a new curriculum that has print and digital materials, but it's very much a traditional learning resource. But because of this experience, I can completely agree that OERs are very beneficial to teachers and students, and I really believe that this is the direction that education curriculum should be moving towards. However, with my experience with Engage New York, it also kind of highlights the need for peer-reviewed and research-backed resources. As a curriculum, Engage New York is now nearly impossible to find online since the New York State Education Department officially discontinued support of that curriculum website in 2022. So in conclusion, OERs present students and the education community with a great opportunity to reach more individuals and achieve new heights through shared learning, creativity and collaboration. So here are some of the resources I use, and I thank you all for listening. I hope you have a great day.